Geht das, ne?
Voy a poner rojo, I'm gonna blush.
So this guy goes whizzing by there, startled him. He didn't really run, just startled him. I went off the trail, over the hill of bars and down the boat. And then in the back was really running. And I didn't even look at it. After the boat. He probably didn't even know it. The guy behind him, we had this conversation. And I was out. I ran on just going on the West Coast since I've been a kid. Not good for him. Well, hopefully you get down there like that.
Jim Leahy, they're drawing his name again. No, they got me last time. I think they got Jim's in there. Are we great? Yeah. Hit the lottery. Hit the lottery.
I'd like to call this October 4th session of the Holyoke City Council to order. The clerk will call the roll and record those members present.
Bartley?
Here.
Bresnahan?
Here.
Graney?
Here.
Jordan?
Here.
Leahy? LeBron Martinez? Lisi?
Here.
Lopez?
Here.
McGee? McGivern?
Here.
Roman?
Here.
Sullivan?
Here.
Tallman?
Here.
Bacon? Here. Valentine? Here.
All rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
God bless America.
And the city of Holyoke.
And the
Thank
city
you to those
council.
in the audience who stood.
Huh?
I just wanted to say thank you for those people in the audience who stood.
Yes. No one taking a knee? Glad to hear that. Glad to hear that. We have one item laid on the table marked item 1, if you'd be so kind. Thank you, sir. This item references a set of minutes from the special meeting of June 13th, 2016 that came to us by way of the city clerk. Has this been distributed? This was tabled at the last meeting. Was this
Motion.
now distributed?
Motion removed from the table.
Motion's been made and seconded to remove from the table. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
To approve. Under discussion, Counselor McGivern.
President, I'd like to amend that to make a motion to receive, approve the minutes with an attached, see the videotape.
With an attached, see the videotape? Okay. Counselor McGivern has made a motion that at the end of the minutes, there'd be a statement that said, please see the minutes. Excuse me, please see the videotape. Is there a second to that? Second. All in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
That amendment is approved. Main motion is to approve as amended. Any discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Next item on the agenda is our public comment period. We've had 8 concerned citizens sign up for public comment this evening. We have 6 from Holyoke, 2 not from Holyoke. Strike that, 3 not from Holyoke.
Motion to
And-
suspend the rules and allow all that signed up to speak.
Second.
And to be in excess of 7, so we can go with it.
Correct.
Okay. So a motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to allow non-Hoyokers to speak and to also allow more than 7 people to speak.
Second.
Just hold on, make sure there's nobody on the back. No, there's not. It is 8. Okay. Any discussion on that? Counselor Leahy?
We don't have a line item on that that says topic, so we have no idea what the topic is previous.
We do not.
I-
Counselor LeBron Martinez?
Yes, I would like to make a motion to take out of order from the committee, from the Finance Committee, the discussion on the,
Do you want to do that before or after public comment?
do we wait? I'll wait.
If you could.
Okay,
That
I'll do that.
probably would be what.
Just a
Probably, I would assume, my guess is somebody might be wanting to speak to your motion anyways. So motion on the floor is to suspend the rules for allowing more than 7 speakers and to allow non-Hoyokers to speak. All in favor? Opposed? No. So moved. First sign up is Karen Godbout, I believe I'm pronouncing that right, hopefully, of 485 Mountain Road. Karen, welcome. Just make sure the microphone's on. Yes.
It is. Hi, my name is Karen Godbout. I am a resident of Mountain Road in Holyoke. I am here with several of my neighbors to discuss the planned new scenic trail, hiking trail access point they are planning on putting on Mountain Road in Holyoke. The residents of Mountain Road have never heard about the scenic trail access point until we saw it on the news. Right now, we have gathered over 35 signatures with more to come opposing the start of the scenic trail as we are never informed of it. We are opposed for several reasons. Number one, we are one of the last rural roads in this city, probably the last rural road. It's a farmland road. There are horse farms, open vistas. We want to keep it that way. We don't need the traffic on our road. There's still tractors that drive our road, horses that come on our road. The city does not need another hiking trail access point. There is no parking on our road. This access point is directly across the street from homes. There's no parking on either side of the road. Our family alone owns 5 homes, my extended family. 4 of them are right at the trail start. There is a big concern about people, not only hikers using the trail and accessing the trail, but out the trash on the trail. Kids partying in this area. It's going to be an access for a partying area. The extra traffic it could create on the road. It's already sometimes dangerous to walk on our road during commuting times. People are just not careful of pedestrians. It is a multi-generational road of families, multi-generations of families on this road, new residents concerned that this trail should not happen. The immediate abutters to the property, to where the proposed trail is, the people across the street, which are our family, nobody was informed that they are talking about putting in access to a hiking trail on our road. So at this point, our neighbors, we have over 35 signatures. There's probably only maybe 100 or so families on the road, not even that. There are more signatures coming opposing this, and we're prepared to oppose it and prevent this from happening on our street. If my neighbors would like to stand, one of them is, as I said, a direct abutter. We abut across the street. So we have been speaking with our counselors, and we'd like the city council to take this back into committee to talk about it again and to reconsider this and involve the homeowners on the street and the taxpayers on the development of this access trail.
And you have submitted, I saw a petition.
Right, it's
Did
been
that come in as a
submitted,
late file? Is that on our agenda?
Yes.
Good, okay.
and the registrar of voters and the city clerk have already approved has already passed all the signatures.
Excellent, okay, very good.
Okay?
All right, thank you so much.
Thank
Have a good evening. Next speaker is Jose Bo of 392 High Street. Jose.
Thank you for pronouncing my name correctly.
It took me only about 7 times, right?
Okay, it is Bo.
I'm getting there.
I have to tell you something, and I don't know the rules, so you tell me to shut up whenever you want, but I want to speak about 2 things. Number one is that I heard the chief of police last night talking about, and the police department talking about cars that they need. And I have to tell you something on my behalf, and my opinion is that when you talk about people that respond to emergencies, I think that whatever we have to do to support them, we have to. And I think, they don't need to walk, or they don't need to go on a bike, or they don't need to ride a horse to respond to an emergency. And I have to tell you, I called the police department a couple of times, and I'm not a friend with all police officers, but I think that the Holyoke Police Department and the chief of police, they responded so quickly to one time that I called. One time, I couldn't believe it. There was cars on the left-hand side, on the right-hand side, and they removed this individual that was using inappropriate language in my business. And I will ask you, please, do what you can to do that. All right? So I wanted to say that. Then the other thing that I wanted to say is that more than 2.5 years ago, we came here to talk to you, and I know that there were some issues. Why in the world did we take over this building that the owner owns taxes? And I remember that, and I said, I can't believe it, because we're talking about safety. But then the building collapsed, and then the city took over that building. And we're not asking you to take over another building, your building, because you took it over, whatever reason, and I agree with you. We should not be taking over buildings, but this is not a building. The ND Beauty Salon is not a building that you're taking over. It is a building that we are paying for it because of the damage that, I'm saying yours, but it's ours, because I own a business in Holyoke, and we are taxpayers, so that we own. So anything, if something happened, I own a house. If my house collapses on my house, I need to be responsible for that, especially if I'm not taking care of that. So I want to thank you for all the work that you do, but please, let's put this over. I was the one that called 911 when the freaking tallest building in Holyoke fell over her roof. And I tell you, that was pretty scary. And thank God to the police department and the fire department of Holyoke that they responded. I'm glad they had trucks and they had cars to respond on that day, because they had to remove victims and people that had to move out of the building. But please, let's put this over and let's deal with what we have to do. And I know you guys send it, and there's a couple of things with the different budgets and different places that you could take the money out. But I'm going to ask you tonight to please, maybe this is the last time you see me here or something, but I'm going to ask all of you to please consider closing this issue and let's move on. MD Beauty Salon is less than 2 blocks from City Hall. And that looks like a place, like a disaster area. We need to recover. And also, I heard last night that, how long will it take for this building? It's really hurting my business. Having that ugly building there with a fence around it. But 2 years or 3 years more. And then there's another, this is a disaster. Close to City Hall. Okay, with that, I want to give somebody else a chance to talk. But that is my point. Thank you, and I'm sorry that I took too long.
Good to see you again. All right. Next up is Marilyn Arce of 77 Boston Street, City Unstated. What city do you reside in?
Chicopee.
Chicopee, Massachusetts.
Yes, sir.
Maryland, welcome.
Hello, everyone. I have to read because I want to be short and go to the point. My name is Marilyn Arce. I live in Chicopee, and my husband have a business here in Avon Place. The name is A Plus Auto Sales. As a small business owner, I'm here to support other businesses. I don't have to say it again, the kind of person that Maria Ferrer is. Bottom line is, and I think most of you will agree, she is the victim of this situation. Let's work together to stop this issue that in end will cost more money for the city. Thank you.
Next up, Maria Ferrer of 490 Maple Street.
It's me again. I'm still around. My name is Maria Ferrer. I live in 490 Maple Street, Holyoke. I have to say that tonight when Jose say ugly building, he hurt my feelings. Because I still have feelings for that building. It's a building that I buy years ago with hard work that I make in Pensacola, men work that I do to make the money, to make the income, to buy that building. That, by the way, I invest a lot of money. Beautiful building. It's too bad that some of you guys don't have the opportunity to see the beautiful of the building inside and the condition of the building. So, with that being said, as you know, guys, I be waiting for over 2 years about this get resolved. And 6 months ago, with the legal department from Holyoke, we agreed on a fair setup for me. So I still had the faith that you guys is going to take the right decision tonight and stop this. Left me, my business, and my staff to move on, to move in a better place where we can really continue to serve the community. Thank you.
Next speaker is Billy Peard of 22 Keefe Avenue. Billy, welcome.
Hello, thank you. I rise tonight as a resident of Holyoke, as a local attorney, and as someone who's recently arrived to Holyoke, maybe with an eye to starting a business someday in the city. And I rise in support of Maria Ferrer in the continuing discussion of from last night. I was here, as many of us were, at the Finance Committee, in which 3 of the 5 members voted to table an immediate decision to compensate Maria and to ratify a settlement agreement, which, as I understand, was signed between her and the solicitor's office of this city several months ago. I urge this body tonight to move swiftly and decisively ahead to ratify that decision, to reinstill confidence not only for Maria and for her employees, but for others who do business with the city, for others who do business with the solicitor's office, who have a signed settlement agreement already in place, but is being held up because of the failure of this body and its committees to properly and timely ratify. Those of you who were here last night at the committee meeting, a passive observer might be led to believe from the nature of the discussion that it was a matter of first impression. But in fact, it is not a matter of first impression. The Finance Committee had heard this matter several months ago. I don't know the exact date, but sometime in the springtime of 2016. It was deliberated quite extensively during one of those prior Finance Committee meetings. Last night's committee meeting, there was a lot of rehashing and discussion of many of the issues that should have been discussed, should have been considered, should have been researched months ago, and questions were coming up that frankly showed a lack of preparedness on behalf of many of the members of that committee. And the fact that 3 of the 5 members voted to table the discussion is a testament to a lack of preparedness, a lack of adequate research. And I will state clearly, I am not Maria Ferrer's attorney. I'm not her legal advisor. But if I were to be her attorney, I would have advised her at this point to withdraw the current settlement discussions and to move forward with litigation against the city. The fact that she has not done so so far in face of the delay, the constant delay of this body, is a testament to Ms. Ferrer's courtesy, her professional approach to dealing with the city and to dealing with her other business partners. But if I were her legal advisor, which I'm not, I would have advised her to move forward with litigation in state superior court for takings and for negligence and for other matters. It shows a lack of regard for the city solicitor's office, and again, I don't speak for them at all. But as an outside observer, I would be furious on both sides of that equation to see that this body is holding up a deal that has been carefully researched, carefully negotiated on both sides, and I have all the respect and confidence in the solicitor's office that they have considered every issue, they've unturned every stone. A couple of quick issues on a couple of legal...
Minutes are long expired.
Okay.
So wrap it up.
I'll just say quickly, there was a couple of legal points last night. I'll just mention one of them was a concern about mootness, valid concern, but I will say as a constitutional litigator, mootness is not an issue in this consideration, and mootness is where the legal facts giving rise to the dispute or controversy have expired. That's not the issue in this case, so by settling between Party A and Party B, it would not give rise to mootness between Party A and Party C, which I understand was part of the concern last night. So I want to kind of exhaust some of those legal concerns and urge this body to move forward with ratifying that settlement agreement. Thank you.
Thank you. Next up is Mark. I'm going to butcher this last name because I'm not sure if this is an M or an N. I think it's Nazaletti.
That is correct, sir.
Oh, wow. I didn't do too bad. All right. Well, Mark, why don't you come up to the microphone? Mark hails from 80 Damon Road, apartment 2111, Northampton, Massachusetts, and he has some thoughts he would like to share with the city council.
Well, thank you, sir and ma'ams, for this great opportunity.
Can you put the
In the mic down.
Just tilt the
Push it
mic a
down
little
for
more
him.
towards you, Mark.
There you go.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. My name is Mark. I have done public speaking all my life, and I think this is one of them, is that this woman deserves money and compensation, yes. And I believe that it's a interest to fight for what is right for many people. Because I know that sometimes, I know it's hard sometimes for people to keep on doing their business. And I think that they should. Because one, it helps me look good because she's an excellent hair cutter. She really is. She even does mine, actually. And she does my roommate's sister's hair, too. And I like that. I really do. And I pay her good money, so don't have to worry about that one. But I think that she deserves her high pay. And that's what I believe in. Thank you.
Great. We're all comforted to know she's being highly compensated, so that's good. Excellent. Next up is Eric Taub, who is at 69 Suffolk Street, Holyoke, Massachusetts. That's your residential address, correct?
Correct.
Okay, very good. Welcome, Eric.
Thank you. I'm here to talk on behalf, I'm a business owner. I'm here to represent or talk on behalf of Maria. I own two businesses here in Holyoke. And so the way I see it is we're looking at a person that's owned a business in Holyoke for 20 years that got damaged and it wasn't her fault. And so we just have to think as a city council, as a city, how people from other cities and investors are looking at this situation. This has been going on for way too long, and we just need to be conscious and think about, she's trying to settle with the city. We have to be careful that maybe she, like Billy said, she may withdraw and sue the city. And many of you here are lawyers, and you know what happens and how much lawyers cost. So I just want you guys to be conscious and just make a decision, a business decision, because we need to attract more businesses, and that's what we need in this city. So.
Next up is Marilyn Nunez, who hails from 62 Commercial
I think he
Street.
stays.
Marilyn, welcome.
I don't know. Well, they did a lot of inside of it, yeah.
Thank you, Jordan. Good evening, everyone. I'm here to support Maria Ferrer, in this case that she has with the city. I'm here to support and to plead for her this money be paid to her and give the opportunity for her to, I'm pretty sure, to buy a new building and continue her business over here in Holyoke. because with all this happening, her business is being affected, losing clients, things like that. So, and in behalf of other owners, business owners over here in Holyoke, they hopefully never, but it's possible they one day go through to the same thing. They start seeing things different in the city, that the city takes serious situations that happen with them and they give them what they deserve. This is all I have to say, and thank you.
Good to see you. Residential address.
Is that it?
That is it.
Mr. President?
Oh, Councilor Bacon, did you have a quick thing?
I was just wondering if we could take the late file on Mountain Road up just to send it to
second.
committee?
We're just going to do a quick one on Mountain Road, then we're going to go right to this.
I had,
If that's okay. Yeah. This will take just a second. Motion is to suspend the rules to take up the late file D, which is a petition from the residents of Mountain Road, that the city council reconsider our decision to accept the provisions of the New England Scenic Trail Connector Grant, and this is filed by Councilors Bacon and McGee.
Can I add my name to that, please?
Adding Councilor Leahy to that.
Add Graney to that.
And Graney. President Hen. Let me get all these in here. President Hen.
Can that be received and referred to finance, please?
Second.
Yep. Okay, first let's do the suspension of the rules. So, all in favor of suspending the rules, I could do this all in one swoop if you wish. All in favor of suspending the rules, taking up late file D at this time, the petition, and referring the matter to the Finance Committee.
Aye.
So moved.
Okay, that has been, any discussion on this? Okay,
President,
Councilor McGivern.
If we could just send a copy to the law department. As you know, reconsideration is not an option, but perhaps there are other options to rescind or to be able to at least sidetrack the proposal until it can be resolved. But once we close our meetings, the reconsideration is not a possibility.
Okay.
You also send that order to copy that to the Conservation Commission?
Sure.
Because Andrew Smith was the one that was on the news talking about this grant and about this trail, so we might want to get him in the loop on that.
Okay. So motion on the floor is also to send a copy to the Law Department and the Conservation Commission to review it. Councilor LeBron Martinez, did you have something on this?
No, not on that.
Councilor Bacon?
Can I just offer an amendment to change, reconsider to rescind?
Okay. How about reconsider or rescind?
Okay.
Keep your options open, right?
If it's or, yes, I'll second it if it's
Yeah.
or. Yeah.
Motion has been made and seconded to amend to say reconsider or rescind. All in favor of that amendment?
I'd like to amend that,
Opposed?
actually.
I'm sorry?
I'd like to amend that language.
The amendment?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you. Can we just see if we could find a different solution so that we could rescind, we could perhaps reconsider, or find a different location for the beginning of the trailhead as opposed to turning away money to the city for a scenic trail? So just
Is that
very
what we're doing?
generally and better.
That's what we're doing.
That's what we're
It's going to committee. We could discuss that there.
I understand, but what
I don't think you
you're
do.
creating here is two options to either rescind or reconsider, and we actually can't reconsider, which is what we just learned. So I just want to figure out a solution, whatever the solution may be.
Well, I'll have to check up I'll refresh my, on rules on reconsideration at future meetings. Sometimes there is, if no final action has been taken on the matter or certain funds have not been spent, these things are potentially possible. But we'll have to consider. It's probably more probable than not that it's rescind, but I'll review Robert's rules on the parliamentary procedure component. But I have time on that since it's going to committee. But to your point, the motion on the floor right now is to read reconsider or rescind. Do you have a proposal other than that? That's the motion on the floor.
To find an alternate solution. So
reconsider or rescind or find an alternate location?
Yeah, relocate the trailhead.
Okay.
That would be the most obvious solution, right?
Okay. So Councilor Councilor Lisi makes an amendment to the proposal that's made by Councilors Bacon and Bartley so that this provision read reconsider or rescind, or relocate the trailhead. Okay? All in favor, is there a second to Counselor Lisi's motion?
Second.
Second.
Thank you.
All in favor, we're going to vote first on Counselor Lisi's motion, which is to add or move the trailhead to the first motion. If a vote is to not to adopt that, then we're going to go back to the Bartley-Vacan motion, which is just to or
It's the same
rescind.
thing.
Go ahead, Counselor Bartley.
I'm okay with her amendment, so.
Okay.
And I just want to say for the record, and everybody here knows this, that's sitting in this little semicircle, and Brenna, of course, but, Mr. Smith is a very reasonable, well thought of, and a well-spoken person. So I really appreciate the residents coming here, and providing their input. It's my strong guess that Andrew is going to come to a finance committee, because the finance chair will welcome him, and Andrew will find a compromise. So however we slice this language tonight, I think the city ultimately, without offending, and will not offend any of the abutters or homeowners, and that Andrew, I have strong confidence, will find a reasonable solution to this. So I want that. I know the homeowners don't know me and they don't know Mr. Smith, but maybe that'll give them some indication that this will go in the right direction and it'll help them out. Thank you, Mr. President.
Okay. Any other comments before we vote? Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, it's just important to point out that we didn't vote to create the trail or accept the trail or to agree to it other than our vote to accept the grant, which was was proposed to be used by the city. So I think all the comments are correct. We have to get Andrew in and see if we can get something done to resolve the issue. Most of us were under the understanding that, until this evening, that the residents of Mountain Road knew about this, and I'm kind of shocked that they didn't, and I'd like to get an answer for that too. But the vote we had was about a grant. That's why we can't reconsider. But that grant doesn't have to be used if the work hasn't started.
Okay, very good.
In committee.
So motion on the floor is to adopt the proposal, the amendment by Counselor Lisi. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, so now, as amended, so just to refresh people's memory, it's accept this petition from the residents, and then the motion is to reconsider or rescind or find an alternate trailhead instead of the decision to accept the provisions of the New England Scenic Trail Connector Grant. A motion on the floor, as I heard it, was to send the matter now to the Finance Committee with a copy to Conservation as well as the Law Department. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Councilor LeBron Martinez, I believe you have a motion.
Yes, I like to request to take out of order the item discussed last night.
So that's the Finance Committee report?
yes,
Or actually, there isn't a committee report because it was tabled.
But it
So
was-
you're seeking a motion to remove it from the Finance Committee?
Please.
Okay?
Is it for the purpose of voting on, or?
Yes.
We would like
She
to-
would like to take final action on it this evening.
You have it?
Do we have it, is it, yeah. In the event that I'll read it just so people are aware of the item, and then there's going to need to be 10 votes to remove it from the committee.
Right.
We've got two items here. We got the transfer. They do go hand in hand, okay.
What is the package?
Mr. President.
Let me read in, then you can make your point. Okay, Councilor LeBron Martinez has made a motion to remove from committee two items currently tabled by the committee. First item is agenda item number 66, formerly of our meeting of September 6, 2016. This is a stabilization fund transfer of $270,205.10 to go from stabilization fund to claims and damages. The second item is agenda item 24 of our February 2nd, 2016 meeting. In it is an order from Councilors LeBron Martinez and Lisi that the city council adopt an attached order of taking for the property located at 394 High Street. The councilors made a motion to remove these two items from committee. I'll recognize Councilor Roman for a moment.
Mr. President and colleagues, due to my checking with the commission, I have to abstain from voting on these matters.
Okay, very good. So Councilor Roman will not be participating or voting on these matters. Is there a second to Councilor LeBron Martinez's motion?
Second.
Second, okay. Under discussion, Councilor McGivern.
Mr. President, it was a lengthy meeting last night with 11 city councilors present. Everyone is very much interested, I think, in making Maria whole, but there were several questions asked both by the committee and by those of us who are not on the committee. Have we received the answer to the questions that were asked last night from the law department and other department heads?
I'm not aware of any communications that's come in.
I've received none myself. I don't know if it came in today.
I don't believe. Oh, Councilor McGee?
We received a few from Sarah Carroll on some of the issues, and from the bond counsel, Sandra Smith was able to get an answer from bond counsel on one of the questions.
So the answer to Councilor McGee, we got some answers, but not all the answers.
But one of the questions was to break down the settlement by line item.
Did not receive that. I have not. I don't have that.
And then I know I had previously asked a question from the mayor that if we were going to go forward with this, that why not take these funds from free cash as opposed to stabilization, that some of us are absolutely adverse to taking 5 cents from stabilization for any purpose, irrespective of the merit of doing anything. I have yet to, I was told that this is his proposal, take it or leave it.
Well,
Councilor Bartley,
is
did you?
Councilor McGivern all set? You know,
I got my answer. We don't have it.
We don't have the answer. Councilor Bartley, did you want to raise any other points?
Just a point I want to follow up with you on. That we had an excellent committee hearing last night. I'm not on the committee, but it was a excellent meeting. And so the chair and the committee should be, I congratulate him last night, as a matter of fact. But one of the issues that we're going to vote on tonight is at account 0430, which is that the account? I don't know what the account number is.
That's relative to that police car issue?
Okay, right. Okay, so that's funds came in to the municipality from the tax title sales. And it was said by me and it was said by others last night that why can't we use some of these funds to pay down I don't think anybody here argues the fact that the money is due to the applicant. Despite what some of the public comments were, I think they were off base, Mr. President, and they weren't informed. Nobody here I don't hear one dispute against that, not from one counselor, whether there were 11 or 14 of us last night, argued against the settlement number. The argument, Mr. President, was the source of the funds. So some of us said that you've said stabilization should be off limits for this. Some of us said, well, why doesn't this account 0430? Why can't we use some of these proceeds? We understand there's $130,000 in there now that we're going to probably spend $112,000 tonight for 3 new police cars. That's a priority, I get it. But we understand that there's more money coming in from sales, from tax sales, Mr. President. So that maybe another $100,000 will come in. Maybe those portion of those funds could be used to pay down the amount owed. And I think the Ward 5 councilor made a very good motion last night. And the key part of her motion says, we've been dealing with this for 2.5 years. We're going to get the free cash numbers in allegedly 6 to 8 weeks. And we might have proceeds in this new account, to Mr. President, to perhaps not use as much of the stabilization funds or the free cash funds. And I'm just going to make one final point. But for the decision of the city treasurer to take over the Essex House, I would say to the applicant, good luck getting your money, getting a red cent from an LLC owned by 3 clowns from Milton, Mass. I would say to the applicant, good luck with that.
Right.
You want to talk about a Superior Court suit? I heard legal counsel talk about Superior Court suit. Great. File it and see how long that takes, and then see how much money you're going to get from an LLC. Thank you, Mr. President.
I saw a hand up somewhere over here. Councilor McGee.
Yeah, just to answer that, we did ask that Bellamy reach out to the external auditors to get information on that issue. I did receive an email as well. As you requested, I reached out to the external auditors regarding the funds and the real estate proceeds, which would be that 0430 account. The auditors indicated that the fund is not supposed to be used for disposition of foreclosed properties, but only for disposition of property fully owned by the city, like Lynch School. So I'm going to have to move the foreclosed proceeds out of the account to the general fund, where they will become available for free cash next year. As a result, the use of these funds for both the purchase of police cars and the Essex House settlement is moot.
Can't do either.
So we can't even buy the police cars tonight, ladies and gentlemen.
Oh.
So we're back to square one on them not having cars over 2 years.
So people have to get their,
And hold on,
get
this
their-
is
their
from Sandra Smith.
internal finance procedures correct.
This
here,
is from
apparently.
Sandra Smith.
Yep.
She reached out to Cinder, who's our bond counsel. No bother, Sandy, because Sandy sent a question in. I think a reasonable one-time cost can be funded with stabilization funds without the use of those funds in any of itself negatively impacts the city's credit. Does that help? Cinder. One-time cost. We just learned that we can't even pay for police cars. So the question becomes, do we go to stabilization to pay for police cars? That'd be two. Now, rumor has it.
There's one or two every year, though.
Well, rumor has it, there may be other lawsuits against the city with regards to surrounding buildings, with regards to the Essex House. Other businesses. 3, 4, 5. I'm not a strong counter, but that's not one. That's why last night's meeting wasn't about the current applicant. It's about what sources of funds can we use to not hamper the city. We all said it, not one person disagreed with it. She's entitled to money. We're trying to figure out how to pay it. That's all we said. We just learned within a matter of 24 hours, less than 24 hours, police cars are gone. You got a police chief who's telling us, he's standing right there. I have 2-year-old cars. Next is my officers are walking the streets. It's a public safety issue now. We're going to take care of her. We've got other problems that we're trying to deal with. Let's all work together and find a way to pay for everything. Thank you.
Councilor Leahy.
Yeah, thank you. We did have a good meeting last night, and I was one of the first people to speak up just to say the fact that we have a business person that's owed this money. We need to pay this money to her. If I was in her shoes, I wouldn't care less in how we figure out how to get that money to her because she's owed that money. However, I'm not in her shoes. I'm on this side, and we do have to figure this out. We didn't negotiate this deal, okay? It's a deal that I think is fair, and I know the law department and the mayor negotiated it, but I'd like to ask the mayor and the law department where they want to get the funds. Why are we putting this on our shoulder? They should be down here saying, all right, this is the deal that we negotiated. It's a fair deal. She's owed the money. Let's get her the money, and this is how we're going to pay it.
Do the hard work.
Have we heard that from the mayor? No. And quite frankly, I think that we should. Because we're sitting here, 15 of us, trying to decide, like everybody else has said, this lady has done a fine job, and she has some fine people down here that are speaking on her behalf, and she even has people from Chicopee. The fact that she has people liking us from Chicopee is a great thing. That doesn't happen a lot. I want her to get paid. Let's bring the mayor down here. I don't want to table this on her behalf, but I think that we should have some answers. We got the law department behind me. Sarah, put you on the spot. What's her idea? I'm not sure if she's part of the negotiation. I know the mayor was. Now we got the chief that's looking at us like a deer in headlights now because I'm not sure if you heard this. It's the first I heard about you not getting the vehicles. I told a story last night where I saw a police officer and on his front tire he had half the bolts missing. These vehicles are not only a public hazard, it's a public hazard for these officers. We had one of the gentlemen that spoke earlier today, a business owner, that he's all in favor of, he said, get the money. I don't want to misquote him, but he said, get the money any way you can to get the vehicles for the police. I agree with him. we're in a very bind, we're a big bind right now.
Councilor Lopez.
Mr. President, I follow late file order and see if we can call a special meeting and get the mayor here and see if we can move this thing and move forward. And then we should hold this special meeting ASAP. So it's a late file order. I would like to make a motion that we remove it from committee and see if we can set this meeting and get to the bottom. Because, I mean, this is getting...
If it's okay, I'd like to dispose of that after we handle this motion, okay? But I'm happy to recognize you to suspend the rules right after this to do that. Any other discussion on this motion to remove from committee? Okay. Hearing none. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
The noes have it.
Can we have a roll call on that, please?
3 members asked for a roll call.
Can
Or
please?
3. 1, you said yes, right? Okay. Clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to remove it from committee. A no vote is not to remove it from committee.
Greenie,
No.
Jordan,
No.
Leahy. Yes. LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
No.
McGee, McGivern,
Not tonight.
Roman, Sullivan,
No.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
No.
Valentine,
Yes.
Bartley,
No.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
6 yeas and 8 nays.
By your vote, you have agreed not to remove it from committee. So hopefully we'll have that again before us soon. And this is late file C, which is the order referred to by Councilor Lopez.
Can you add me to that as well, please?
Yep. Adding Councilor Leahy as a co-sponsor and McGee.
And can I be added to the order of Mr. Lopez?
Yeah, absolutely. All right.
No, me too, Mr. President.
Adding Councilor Tallman.
Graney.
Graney. I'll put myself on here, Councilor Jordan.
You're adding a lot. That's the
Yeah,
first
I'm gonna
one.
run out of paper.
I want to keep track. Okay.
So, motion to suspend the rules, to take up late file C now, and to take up final action, I assume, on it.
Second.
Please.
Second.
Okay. So, this is regarding the city council calling a special meeting to discuss this issue. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So this item is now before us for final action. That the city council hold a special meeting, executive session, I'm going to say amended if necessary, okay? Friendly amendment to add if necessary?
That's fine.
All in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. To discuss 394 High Street and the Essex House demolition / litigation. So, as you know, under the rules now, we have the authority to call by order of the president. We can call a special meeting now. So, happy to accommodate this request if the council votes to do this. So, we'll just schedule it at a time. I'll reach out to you guys and schedule something that's convenient if the council would like to go forward to do this. So, do you have a motion to adopt?
Well, I'm just thinking about the police department. I'm not sure how we can add that to this special meeting because, I mean, it will be...
You want to amend it to add and
Yes,
discuss
absolutely.
the purchase of police cars?
Yeah.
Okay. Motion on the floor is to amend this and to add,
Can we have a discussion about the budget line item 0430 as opposed to the police cars so that we could just figure out where the money is coming
okay.
from?
So we'll do add purchase of police cars and discussion of budget, what was that number again, Councilor Lisi?
Sorry?
What was that number? Budget?
0430 is the line item.
Line item 0430. So there's an amendment on the floor to add that clause at the end. Is there a second to that?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Mr. President?
Is there a motion to adopt this order?
I'll give it a motion to adopt in a second. I just want to make a motion to, Diosdato's motion, because I think, could you just read that over just one last time, Mr. President?
Add discussion of purchase of police cars and discussion of budget line item 0430,
No, I got that. The part before that, the main motion.
that the city council hold a special meeting and in executive session, if necessary, to discuss 394 High Street and the Essex House demolition / litigation.
Demolition, litigation, can we just say acquisition as well, Mr. President, just in case? I
Sure.
don't want to limit our discussion at all.
Okay? So,
Second.
Thank you.
motion's been made and seconded to add the word demolition, litigation, and acquisition. And acquisition. That's the motion from Counselor Bartley. Is
And I'll
there a
make a motion.
second?
Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to
Opposed?
adopt.
Second.
So moved. Motion on the floor is to adopt as amended. That was seconded. I'm going to recognize the maker of the order now, though. Counselor Lopez, would you like to say anything additional?
I just trying to move forward and take
Very
care of the
good.
issues.
Okay.
Thank you.
Counselor McGivern.
I think moving forward is important. I have no problem with a special meeting, but if we don't have the answer to the questions, we have a meeting in 2 weeks. What's the purpose of a special meeting without the answers? The discussion happened last night. There is no litigation before the city at the moment there's possible litigation, but, so there's no executive session. But it's just a matter of getting the answers, I think, and we can vote.
Mm-hmm.
Mr. President?
Maybe that's the conclusion, but we'll see. I hope if we adopt this, you'll leave it somewhat to my discretion to try and see if everybody's prepared to make a presentation to give us the answers that we need, and then have it at a time that's convenient for you. But the other component of a special meeting is you'd be allowed to take votes of final action in addition to just what the committee would do potentially. So the other thing I would tell you is under the rule, I'm allowed to add items to this in and of my own authority as president. So if something comes up that now a finance order was all of a sudden okay to go forward, I could bring that in, like that 270 transfer, or perhaps the mayor says, okay, I've rethought about it, I'll take it from some other fund. He could give that to me to put on this agenda as well. So maybe we have additional solutions that we could add in addition to what we're contemplating here. So, okay, great. So I think we are abundantly clear on what we have before us at this point. We feel comfortable to take a vote. All in favor of adopting?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. And we now are at communications, if there's no other special motions. Okay, very good. Item 2. Item 2 is a communication from the mayor. Subject to your approval, I hereby appoint the following individual to serve as a member on the Library Board of Directors for the City of Holyoke, Mr. Charlie Barrios of 488 Maple Street, Holyoke. He will replace Janet Stupak, who will serve a 2-year term. Said term will expire February 2018.
Receive, send to public service.
Motion on the floor has been made and seconded to receive and refer to the Public Service Committee. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Mr. President, do you mind reading number 3 from the city clerk? I just think it's timely information, if we could get the key points out there.
Just FYI, it's single-spaced page and a half, just so you know.
Can we ask, can we suspend the rules and allow Brenna to make some key points? Just because it does concern
Sure.
early voting, and I think that it's time-sensitive, and it would make sense to make a public, call the public's attention to the issue now.
Okay, you feel comfortable with that, Brenna? Okay. So motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to allow the city clerk to address this issue and address her communication to us regarding early voting.
Can we take the communication just?
Absolutely, yep.
Thank you, Brenna.
You don't have that all
There's a lot of information on
Yeah,
early
there is a
voting,
lot.
so.
All in favor of suspending the rules for this purpose?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Counselor, Clerk McGee, floor is yours.
Okay, so in 2014, just a brief history of early voting, the governor signed into law early voting, which will take place across Massachusetts. It will begin October 24th and run 11 days through November 4th. It will be, we are required to hold it in City Hall if we're suitable to do so, which we are, all during our regular business hours of the 11-day voting period. My office will open early every single day and stay open till 4:30 every single day, except for 2 of the days we'll stay open till 7. We will be holding early voting hours on Saturday, October 29th, from 8 o'clock to 2 o'clock. And we will be doing 2 remote locations, one at the Holyoke Senior Center, October 25th and November 1st. Yep, November 1st. And we will also be at the Holyoke Soldiers Home on Wednesday, October 26th.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Kevin?
Yeah. Early voting will also be similar to absentee voting. Folks won't be putting their ballot into an actual ballot box, but they'll be putting them into an affidavit envelope that will be sealed in my office until on election day, and they'll be processed just like absentee ballots are processed. They'll be run through the machine and checked off the voting list, similar to absentee voting. And really, the only difference in absentee voting is that there's no requirement to early vote. Any registered voter can early vote. Yeah. That's kind of it in a nutshell. So if anybody has questions, I'm happy to take them.
Yeah, thank you, Brenda. Thank you for that explanation. How are we going to prevent voter fraud?
Well, Plan A is this. We actually have a request into the Secretary of State's office to have electronic poll books that it looks like 99% chance that I'm going to be getting them. Poll books are electronic voting lists that talk to one another. So when a voter comes in to vote, if they're at the senior center, it will talk live to the poll book that will be in the voter office. So someone couldn't vote at the senior center and then run to City Hall and try to vote as well, because it will be a live update that they voted. And Plan B will be to just have our regular paper lists, and they'll be checked off, but it will be called into City Hall or emailed into City Hall that that person had voted, just so nobody could run from one polling location to the other. And when we are open at the senior center, the other thing I didn't mention was voting in City Hall is going to be upstairs in the auditorium opposed to the Registrar of Voters office, just because of space. We have to have voting booths as well as the automark machine set up, and the voters office is quite small, so we're going to have it upstairs. But the days we're at the senior center or at the soldiers' home, upstairs will be closed. And if somebody does happen to come to City Hall to vote, they're going to have to go right into the voter's office. And we do have everything electronic in the voter's office on a desk drive.
All right, so back to the voter fraud. So if I'm Jim Leahy, I go and I do 12 Park Slope, 7B. Now say 2 weeks earlier, I go and I say I'm Diaz Lopez, and I go. They check my name off, and then he goes back, and 2 days later he wants to vote. His name's already crossed out. What happens then?
Well, you're basically asking a question that could happen on Election Day anyways.
Right, so what happens then?
And we're not allowed to ID people unless they're inactive, so that really is out of my hands. I'm not allowed to ID people just because I don't think they are who they aren't. I'm not allowed to do that, and I can't. So, I mean, we would handle it the same way we would handle anything. If, we felt someone was voting illegally, we would call the Secretary of State's office, who takes it into their hands.
So would that ballot be put aside for the time being?
It would be challenged.
Be challenged. No, the only reason I ask is because, and I get that day, usually just one day. But when you have, was it 2 weeks?
It's a little less than a 2 week period.
2 weeks. I mean, somebody could do that. Theoretically, they could do this. I hope they don't. But they could vote one day, and 3 days later they could vote as somebody else. 4 days later they could vote as somebody else. They can go and...
Yeah, but we would recognize if Jim Leahy came in to vote on Monday, and then Jim Leahy came in to vote again on Tuesday, and also Wednesday, we would recognize that.
No, but if I said my name is Michael Sullivan or Kevin Jourdain, you wouldn't recognize that. If I kept changing my name, within those 2 weeks...
Yeah, but I don't anticipate anything like that happening. I mean...
You don't?
The influence of voter
You don't
fraud
think-
is so small.
No. So what's the story with voter identification? Where does that stand?
That voter identification is only allowed if a voter is inactive, and a voter is inactive if they don't fill out their census for 2 years or if they haven't voted in 4.
And so there's no law, there's no temperature in the State House of going that way to have voter.
I think it has been in front of the legislature in the past, but it was voted down. I think that goes back many years from when I was working for Mike Kane.
Okay, and my last question is, how much overtime is it going to cost your department?
Probably about $2,000 extra in overtime.
Okay.
The state just reimbursed us $14,000 that went into overtime and into my election officers' line item accounts. Just because it's a state election, we get money back from those anyways. And there's also a late file on the agenda that I applied for a grant for a weekend early incentive grant, and I was awarded it. And I just found out on Friday it's for $1,700. And if you guys accept that tonight, we'll be getting those monies in probably early next week.
Great, thank you, Brenna, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
I was going to be smart and see if you can vote early, can you also vote late? But I think you answered that question.
No.
Brenna, a long time ago, when you say like absentee voting, the envelopes not only had to be sealed by the person who was doing the absentee voting, it had to be certified by had to be sealed by a certified public accountant. That no longer is the case, but how do you store an envelope? How do you ensure the safety of an envelope once that vote is cast and put it in a sealed envelope?
It's put into, once we've received a ballot, whether it's absentee or early voting, we have a state system that we are able to put it in there that that person has cast a ballot, and it's electronically put onto our voting list, and then it's just locked, just the same way absentee ballots are locked up in the office until voting.
Okay. And do you have an accountability for the number of votes versus the number of envelopes and ballots?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep, the state system generates a report, and we have to keep applications for absentee ballot, and they have to match every single ballot that goes through. We have to keep the outer envelope, and the inner envelope goes to the polls.
Great
So
job.
there's
and
actually two envelopes.
Great job. And I hope someday voter identification does come into a reasonable approach.
Thank you.
My question was on the cost. It's been answered.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. President. I just, since we talked about voter fraud, I hope, Mr. President, the public is aware that instances of voter fraud are about as rare as a four-leaf clover. I mean, it just hardly ever happens, and I, for one, hope that voter identification does not ever come into play in the Commonwealth, and I strongly suggest that it never will come into play in the Commonwealth. It's a total myth perpetuated on the internet and talk radio, Mr. President. There's no evidence there, too. Second of all, I just want to make a little plug, if I may, Mr. President. Tomorrow night I'm having my, I think, 28th Ward 3 City Council meeting. And tomorrow night we're going to have a very special guest speaker, and we're talking about early voting and all that. It's going to be the city clerk. So we're really looking forward to hearing from her. Tonight there will be a throng, I would say, of at least 8 people, and it's going to be a really great informative session. And there may actually be, I may actually open up my wallet, which doesn't happen often, and we may actually have food. So there's that. And that's at TNT Pizza tomorrow at 4 p.m., Mr. President. And City Clerk Brennan McGee Murphy will be the featured speaker. Thank you.
Fantastic.
Great.
4. It's always a 4.
We could have a long discussion about election issues, but
Not tonight, please.
but we'll save that for another night about
Voter
what
ID.
we have seen and what has occurred. And to say that there has never been voting or election issues in any election in the United States is to say that has occurred.
Item number
I can
4,
tell you right
please.
here.
Nobody
Item
said
number
that.
4.
But I do have a question on this issue is, Brenna, one of the things that concerns me is about influence on the day of the election and how voters are approaching the boxes. As you know, on a regular election day, no solicitation of them, of the voting with them, handing them pamphlets or greeting the voter and saying, vote for me or vote for my issue or any of that within 150 feet of the door. And so we also have police present to police these things at all the many election polls on election day. So my question is, what steps are in place to ensure that voters can go to the polls unobstructed, not having, somebody saying, here, vote for me, vote for my issue, and what steps are in place to police those rules?
Well, as most people know, there's no soliciting in City Hall anyways. So whether there's voting going on in here or not, there will be nobody allowed in here soliciting for any candidate or any campaign. As far as the 150-foot rule goes, just like I said in my email to you when you raised this concern, was that I reached out to the Secretary of State's office, and because this is not a polling location, it's an early voting site, that rule is not in place. I did reach out to Nave from the Senior Center, and we both agreed that although campaigns are allowed to be in the Senior Center because it's a public building and both sides are invited to go in, she would not be inviting either group, if we are referring to the CPA, I think that's what we all know we're talking about, into the Senior Center on those days. If people want to stand outside and hold a sign for or against Donald Trump or Hillary Clinton or the CPA, they have every right to do that. I'm only following the laws that the Secretary of State's office and the state legislature came out with, and...
So basically, I could stand at the front door and greet everybody and say, vote for Hillary or vote for Donald.
Yep, you absolutely
can. And I could literally be 10 feet from the box, and I'm literally opening the door and letting them in and say, vote for Hillary, vote for Donald, and there's the box right there, and that's totally...
Well, the box isn't going to be right there. The box is going to be in a separate room off to the side, set up just like a polling location, so it's not going to be 10 feet from the door. But yeah, you could do that if you wanted to. I would, hope that people would have a little bit more courtesy for the voters coming in, and there is still laws in place as far as harassing, intimidating, trying to influence a voter. Those rules are all going to still be in place, and I would hope that people that are trying to campaign one way or the other would have respect for all of those laws as they are trying to...
The problem is dealing with the non-respectable people. Respectable people we never have a problem with in society. It's the unrespectable. That's my concern.
The state law does state that there is not a requirement for police presence at early voting sites as well, but also, as I've mentioned, I reached out to Captain Febo, Captain Pratt, and the chief, and Captain Febo and I had a lengthy discussion on this on the primary day, and he was more than happy to send out police presence, maybe not to sit there with us all day long during the 11 days.
Call.
But yep, he'll be on call, and he also will just pop in randomly to these places, especially when we are at the Senior Center and at the Soldiers Home, because we're not going to be in City Hall. We're going to be out with equipment and what have you, and he was more than happy to assist me with that request.
So if a early voter would like to go to the clerk's office, your office, my understanding is they go in, they request a ballot, and they stand at the counter, and they would cast their ballot, correct?
Well, that's how absentee is done, but because we need to have an auto mark machine.
So it's going to be upstairs?
It's going to be upstairs.
Okay. So theoretically, but you're saying you're going to put a prohibition of anyone inside City Hall doing what I described as the shaking hands and vote for Hillary, vote for Donald on the stairwell walking up or otherwise, right?
Yeah, there's going to be signs asking people to please remove stickers, hats,
So why can't we do that at the Senior Center?
We can do that at the Senior Center. And we will be doing that at the Senior Center, yeah. But we can't tell people that they can't walk into the parking lot of the Senior Center with a Donald Trump hat on. If they want to, then they have every right to do that.
I would just ask, this is just Kevin speaking, I mean, you're the boss, but I would ask that, and I don't know if others feel the same, but would be whatever rule you put in here for City Hall, that would be the same rule at the Senior Center. I don't know if we can police that at the Soldiers Home. That's not our building or property, but I think, the same rule should apply. People should be able to go in and be a reasonable distance to the box or wherever they're actually because I believe they're going to vote at the fill in the blank. You're going to have the regular tables like we always have at the polls, right?
We're going to bring voting booths with us to the Soldiers Home and to the Senior Center, and we also are going to be bringing the auto mark machine. So each voter will have a booth to go into, have privacy, just like they would if they were voting at Sullivan School.
Good, excellent, all right. Okay, thank you. Appreciate your hard work on this. Any other questions, thoughts? Okay. All in
you.
favor of receiving this communication?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
I don't know if somebody wants to take the grant up there too, but that's what
Oh,
as well goes with it.
Is-
Yeah, motion to take up late file.
Oh, it's on late file? Okay.
Yep, related to the grant for the weekend voting supplement, sorry.
Yep, yeah.
Yeah, well done, Brendan, on that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, so there's a motion on the floor by Counselor Lisi to take up the late file A, which is the grant that was referred to earlier by the city clerk, which is the early voting weekend hours incentive grant. Is there a second to that?
Second.
And the motion will be to take up as well final action on this item tonight. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. This order is introduced by Counselor Todd McGee, that in accordance with Mass General Law, Chapter 44, Section 53A, the City Council hereby accepts the provisions of the Early Voting Weekend Hours Incentive Grant and authorizes the establishment of a fund or other method appropriate for the accounting of the receipts and expenditures of all resources associated with the administration of that grant. Is there a motion? Counselor
Motion
McGee?
to suspend the necessary
Accept
rules.
grant.
That's the first reading?
Pass it.
Second.
Oh, I think the chairman's saying he didn't
I'll
come
make
out.
a motion to remove my name and add Counselor Leahy,
Okay.
and I'll
Second that.
abstain from the vote. It's common practice for
Yeah.
me.
Yeah,
when
for
dealing
city
with this
clerk
office,
items.
yeah.
Okay.
Right.
Just they use your.
There
name-
is no,
they use your name
there
for
is no
fun.
conflict, however, that's the stance I've been
And I'll
taking.
vote no.
So, removing, Counselor McGee has asked that his name be removed as a sponsor, and Counselor Leahy is asked to be the sponsor. So, all in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed,
Aye.
so moved. Motion to go to the first reading?
Yeah, motion to go with first reading.
Okay,
Second.
motion's made, seconded to pass the first reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
Motion to go second reading?
Motion's been made and seconded to
Pass it.
pass its second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of receiving the grant of approximately $1,200 or $1,400?
It's seven.
Oh, I'm sorry.
1,750.
$1,750, no match, too, by the way. And that's what you're voting on. A yes vote is to adopt that, a no vote is to deny that.
Greenie,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi,
Yes.
Lopez,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Roman,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman,
Yes.
Bacon,
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Bartley,
Yes.
Bresnahan,
Yes.
unanimous vote.
By your vote, you've approved the grant. Next up is communication number 4 from Brenna Murphy
Motion to
McGee.
take up 4 through 9 as a package.
Okay. Motions, well, let's just do 4 a little bit differently because I need an approval vote on that. The others are
Alright.
just receive, if that's okay.
Okay.
4 is from the city clerk and our administrative assistant. It's the minutes of our September 21st, 2016 meeting. I have been assured that this was distributed to all for your review. Is there a motion to receive and approve?
Make a motion, receive and accept.
Second.
Approve.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and to approve the minutes. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Okay. Motion to take up
Motion
5 through 9 as a
Yes.
package.
Motion's been made and seconded to suspend the rules to take up items 5 through 9 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 5 comes to us from Haley Dunn. She's the secretary of the Board of Registrar of Voters. She's providing us the minutes of their August 9th, 2016 meeting. Item number 6 is the Park and Rec Commission minutes of May 2nd, 2016. Item number 7 is the Board of Public Works minutes of August 15th, 2016. Item number 8 is the Sewer Commission minutes of August 15th, 2016. And item number 9 is from the Stormwater Authority. It's the minutes of their August 15th, 2016. The motion on the floor has been made to receive all of these items. Is there a second to that? Second. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. President's report. Unless there's any questions on anything, I did not really per se have a big president's report for tonight, but yes, Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, I just would like to make a comment on the Parks and Recreation Commission minutes.
Okay, oh, sure.
Yeah, it's taken over 5 months for them to get those to us from May 2nd. So we haven't seen June, July, August, September. Currently, there's a member of the department on leave, paid leave, pending some type of investigation. I've called the Personnel Department to see if I get some information. I've been referred to the City Solicitor's Office, where I was, it was confidential and it couldn't be discussed with me. Really like to hear from the Parks and Recreation Commission on a timely fashion what is going on down there.
Okay. Maybe we need to either, somebody want, if we want to pursue that issue, you could ask to file an order to have an executive session with the city council, or, something before Public Service Committee perhaps, to discuss an update and confidentiality on that issue. I'm also aware of that issue. Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, thank you for not having a President's Report tonight, but I just wanted, under the President's Report, I wanted to give a quick shout out to my colleague Nelson Roman. This last weekend, I was able to attend his taste of, or the city's taste of the El Sabor, is that how you pronounce it? Sabor de South Holyoke, which was absolutely fantastic. I appreciate the invite, I appreciate the hospitality. It was absolutely wonderful. So I just wanted to give him a shout out. And I also wanted to say this past week too, everyone in this room obviously knows, and I wrote a little editorial about the Holyoke soccer, the Holyoke ladies soccer, that faced some challenges up in Amherst. And I called the superintendent of Amherst Public Schools, spoke to the superintendent. Dr. Zarek got involved. There's ongoing, the Holyoke Public Schools is going to proceed this with the MIAA. As you guys saw, the Amherst High School principal issued an apology. My personal feeling, I don't think that was enough, but that's what it is.
Okay, does this mean we're going to have a Leahy report now on the agenda? I had no president's report, now you're going to put a Leahy report on?
We got to rename it to the city council show and tell.
Anybody else want their own report? To be the Leahy report. Go ahead, what do you got?
On the question, Councilor Grady.
So I was just wondering, so I remember at the last meeting, we appointed the third Parks and Recreation Commissioner, and we were trying to address this issue that they hadn't been able to meet because they didn't have a quorum.
Yep.
And I'm under the impression that that issue of their third member for the commission is a completely separate issue from this staff member who's now on paid leave.
One has nothing to do with the other, you're
Yes.
right. Yep.
So I just think that we should clarify that in the order. Counselor Sullivan, if you file something, I'll co-sponsor it with you, but I'd rather just focus on.
No, the issues, yeah, you're right. The issue is regarding a full-time staff position that many of us understand is now on a leave status, and totally independent of the commission that we filled the other day.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, so maybe we'll have a late file order from Counselor Sullivan et al. Other than that, okay, very good. So moving right along to reports of committees. First up, ordinance. Ordinance 10A. The Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred a petition for a text change of a zoning ordinance for Mount Marie Property LLC for property address 34 Lower Westfield Road, Holyoke, Mass., Assessor's Map 118, Block 00, Parcel 005. Text change is as follows. Petitioners requesting a text change to the zoning ordinance to add that for every 5 acres of land at the end of section 4.3, subsections 22, 24, and 24A on the use chart to allow for larger buildings on a larger size parcel that can accommodate greater than 2,500 square feet. Recommend that application be approved. Did you want to do the next one as a package with it?
We could.
Okay. Do you want to make that motion?
I'll make the motion to
Okay. Motion is to make, take 10B and 10A as a package together. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved.
10A and 10B, right?
Yep. 10B. 10B reads, the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred a zone change application of Mount Marie Property LLC for the property address at 34 Lower Westfield Road, Holyoke, Massachusetts, Assessor's Map 118, Block 00, Parcel 005, from the current Zone RA to the proposed Zone RO. Recommend that the application be approved. And do you have a motion?
So the motion is to pass the first reading
On both. Yep. So the motion's been made and seconded to pass the first reading on both. I'm just going to say and preface my remarks that I abstained on these matters in committee. So I'm going through the motions here to just recognize the votes. I'll serve an administrative function here as president, but I won't be participating myself personally on the discussion or voting on this matter. Just wanted to put that out there. And I do recognize Councilor Vacan under discussion on first reading.
Thank you, Mr. President. This, in my view, was an example of a good process relative to a zone change where there was coordination between the petitioner and the planning staff and coordination between the planning board and the ordinance committee. It was an interesting situation and one that was seen as a logical change to our zoning by the committee. Basically, for item 10A, it was simply making the zoning measurements relative to the size of the property, whereas the previous language, regardless of whether you had 5 acres or 50 acres, the limitations were pretty severe. So I think that was a good change. And we did, as a committee, take a look at whether there would be broader implications throughout the city in any kind of a negative way. And the planning board or the committee did not see concerns in that regard. So that was for the text change. And relative to the zone change, this is in an area where there's a lot of business zoning, and in the surrounding area, there's also residential zoning. And so that one was an interesting question relative to use of the property. And it was found that given the nature and the sort of bridge area of this particular property, that the RO zone was the best and highest use and also the least problematic, if you will, use relative to the residential area near this property. All those things taken into consideration, we had unanimous votes of both bodies relative to this change. And while there was a question raised by one of the abutters, we had no opposition from the neighbors either. Thank you.
Councilor Graney.
Just quickly, could you explain to the public the difference between the RA and the RO zone?
The RA is residential agriculture and the RO is residential office. In this particular setting and for this particular project, the buildings already exist on the property. They simply were not able to use them in the prior use, which I believe was educational, and they wanted to be able to use them for medical clinics, which is consistent with what is already happening on the property. So the good news in this case is it's allowing a property owner to use already built facility.
Does RO include any other structures, any other things beside office?
It wouldn't include anything that would exceed what is there, to my understanding. If there's anybody on the committee that wants to add anything in that regard. But when we looked at the language, it wouldn't change. For example, they can't start building 9-story buildings on that property, if that's what you mean.
Any other discussion?
How about multiple dwellings?
No.
Councilor Lopez.
If I may, Mr. President, I would like to speak in favor. I think this approach is good for the city. We will be bringing more revenue, and I think the proponent will be able to do what they need to do. I think it's a great idea. I support this, and I'm speaking in favor. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion to pass the second reading?
Motion's been made and seconded to pass the second reading. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Motion that the passage be ordained.
Okay, motion has been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, that the passage be ordained. There is no further discussion. The clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of making both the ordinance change as well as granting the zone change, okay? So we're all clear on that? All right. Clerk will call the roll.
Greenie.
No.
Leahy. LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
McGivern.
Yes.
Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Bresnahan.
Yes.
12 yeas and 1 nay.
Okay, your vote is 12 yeas, 1 nay,
And 1 abstain.
1 abstain, and 1 absent. By your vote, you have approved both items. Next up. 10C. That would be nice, thank you. Next up is item number 10C. This is a committee report from the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order to add solar-powered lights or signage or other improvements to make crosswalks on Kane Road, Sterling Road, Pinchin Road more visible to drivers to increase safety for pedestrians. Recommend that the new material reflectors be added at Sterling Road and that the trees be trimmed at Kane at the school light flasher. Counselor, did you want to just maybe package D and E with it, since these are kind of,
They're similar. Motion is take up C, D, and E.
okay. Motion has been made second to suspend the rules to take C, D, and E as a package. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. D reads, the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order, second request, that the engineer review the speed limit on Old Ferry Road and that the DPW post speed limit signs on the street. Recommend that the order be be referred to the police department to enforce the 30 miles per hour speed limit. Order also is to refer to the president of the Canoe Club suggestions for a petition for speed humps. Item number 10E reads that the Committee on Ordinance, to whom was referred an order that the city engineer evaluate and recommend a stop sign for placements at Lower Westfield Road near the Elks, where Whitney Avenue crosses the Elks, and that lines are painted in the roads that meet Lower Westfield Road to indicate that they are two-way streets. Consider moving the stop sign part way through the Rotary-like area to Lower Westfield Road, so that all traffic entering Lower Westfield Road from the side streets must stop prior to entering the roadway. Constituents are requesting safety improvements due to increased traffic in the area. Recommend that the order has been complied with. Motion on the floor is to adopt all 3 committee reports. Do I understand that right?
Yes, but, Mr. President, I do have to make a correction that I hadn't caught earlier.
Okay.
Item 10E is tabled in committee, waiting for feedback from the engineer.
So that was actually, in fact, not referred out?
It's tabled.
Okay, so 10E we can disregard, and 10E is going to go automatically back to committee because it's
Okay.
apparently wrongly here. Okay?
Relative to items C and D, yes, the motion is to receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay, so C and D is before us, 10E stays in committee.
And I would just, if I could just add, relative to item 10C, the engineer also noticed that the school light flasher is not operating on Homestead Avenue, and we agreed that it would be called complied with because he said that he would get it repaired.
Okay.
So we took our engineer's recommendations to look at these crosswalks of concern, and then if there's further ones, I'll file a further order. Relative to Old Ferry Road, and I'll defer to Councilor McGee, but really, the issue down there is one of enforcement. It's a very small road, and after discussion and back and forth with the concerned citizen, we recommended that he go through the chair to the ward counselor relative to a speed hump for that area. So it's the best we could come up with. But if you wish to speak to that.
No, perfect.
Okay.
Yep. He said you were very responsive, by the way, so he gave you a nice compliment. Well-deserved. So, is there a second to the motion that the committee reports be, the committee report recommendations be adopted?
Second.
Okay. Any other discussion? Counselor Sullivan?
Just a question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, ask your question.
Okay, regarding the school light flashers that were out, they said they were going to repair those, the city engineer?
He said he'd be sure that it was repaired. It's a law that they have to be operational.
Yeah, who's responsible for repairing those, do we know? Is that the alarm division, or is that,
I'm not sure if that one is with DPW or the fire department. The fire department has the street lights, but I'm not sure about the school flashing lights.
just curious about that, yeah.
I don't think it's the fire, but I left it in the hands of our engineer to get it corrected.
All right, thank you.
Yeah. Sorry, I don't have specifics on that.
So motion on the floor is to adopt the two committee reports. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved, which now brings us to 10F. Thank you so much. 10F is a report from the Committee on Ordinance, to whom is referred a special permit application of Heriberto Flores to operate a registered medical marijuana dispensary at 630 Beaulieu Street, Holyoke, Massachusetts. Assessors map 055, block 00, parcel 003. Recommend that the application be given leave to withdraw at the request of the applicant.
Motion to receive and adopt the committee report?
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, the chairman, Councilor Bacon.
Thank you, Mr. President. This is very straightforward. A formal letter withdrawing the application was submitted and accepted by the committee. Because the hearing had already been noticed, we had to open the hearing to accept it and close it.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? Councilor McGivern.
Just so we can make that without prejudice.
Second.
Sure. Okay, motion is to amend the give leave to withdraw to add without prejudice on that. All in favor of that amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
1-0.
1-0, it passed. Councilor McGivern didn't even vote for his own motion. So anyways.
My mic isn't working.
Okay, very good.
That would stop you.
So that's, any other discussion on this? Okay, hearing none, then the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is in favor of adopting the committee report. A no vote is to deny it. Yes.
Greenie. Jordan.
Yes.
Leahy. LeBron Martinez.
Yes.
Lisi.
Yes.
Lopez.
Yes.
McGee.
Yes.
McGivern. Sullivan.
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Bresnahan.
Yes.
Backwards.
By your vote, you have approved the committee recommendation. That item has now been given leave to withdraw at the request of the applicant without prejudice. This now brings us to the Finance Committee reports. First up is the Committee on Finance, to whom was referred a memorandum from Catherine Jakowski, Collector of Taxes, RE, the top 100 delinquent taxpayers. Recommend that this communication has been complied with. Signed off by 4 of the 5 members of the Finance Committee.
Motion to receive, adopt, and accept the committee report that's complied with?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor McGee.
Yes, Sandy Smith was here with her assistant. I'm drawing a blank on her name. Peter?
Amy.
Amy.
Assistant.
Thank you. And
Shanowski, I think it is, yeah.
And they went over the list and answered some questions. One of the things that they're very honest upon is that of the $7 million outstanding, about half, and that was a generous remark, won't be collected. So there were some issues with the system in the sense of some people may or may not have been listed correctly. So they're working really hard to update the list and make it correct, but at the same time, we're honest in the sense that of the $7 million, we may never see it. So.
Any reasons why?
It's just non-collectible.
Not collectible.
Yeah. But it was a very good discussion on it, and they will continue to work on it, update it, and keep us informed on it. So they're doing a very good job on that.
Any other discussion? Councilor Bacon.
I would just note that they agreed to give us quarterly updates, which is a great thing, because lots of times departments come in, give us a report, and then some of us are going through our files a year later, and they're like, whatever happened with that? And so I really think it's a good process, and there was good collaboration going on between all the departments relative to the properties, and I thought that was a good thing, too.
Very good. Counselor Bresnahan.
Yeah, I just want to thank Katie Jakowski for putting this together from her office, and Sandy Smith in her office, and everybody that chipped in on that. I will point out a couple things that, I asked them to renew this information to us quarterly, which they were willing to do. I also noted that there was 4 businesses that are in operation within the city of Holyoke that are in those lists of 100 that have no payment plans. Obviously, we know businesses can have their business permits not renewed if they're not in paying their taxes, or if they're not in a tax payment plan. In a lot of these properties are single, 2-family homes, well within the guidelines of housing court and the receivership. I mean, I think with the strong core agencies that we have here, they should be able to get some of these properties on the tax rolls, and or at a minimum, someone should be knocking on these businesses, one of which is on Northampton Street, saying, pay up or close down. I mean, why are we letting businesses in operation? So the list, even though there were some mistakes from the system and all that, it's got to be gone through with a fine-tooth comb, and people have to realize that this gentleman and this address, it is a business. Businesses aren't paying taxes; they should not be in operation. And we had a situation tonight with the same issues. I mean, businesses as well as homeowners have to pay their taxes. Thank you.
Counselor Granny.
Just quickly, to piggyback what Counselor Bresnan has said, people come to us just about every other meeting to renew a home business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The first thing that you do as a president is to check to see if all the taxes are paid before we grant that license. So there definitely is something we could do about this.
Mr. President?
Counselor Bartley.
Yeah, so that we just following up what my 2 wise counselors across from me just said. We had that discussion last night, and again, it was a great meeting. And I asked the law department to give us some feedback as to whether we can, what kind of a legislation we can file for this body to consider to prevent delinquent property tax owners from obtaining city licenses. And that's something we hope to have coordinated put down in legislation, and then coordinate it with the city clerk's office. So I don't know if we can get there, but I know the law departments are working diligently on it, and I'm sure they'll get back to me, and we'll proceed from there. Thank you.
Very good. Anyone else on this? Counselor Tallman.
Yeah, I was very impressed by Amy Krawalowski with the assistant last night. She's really working hard to try to get these tax delinquents, worked at. I mean, some of this stuff goes back 15, 20, 25 years, that things that happened at that time that just weren't being taken care of the proper way. And then she mentioned how some things have to be sort of written off, and some things are in the muni system that they're really delving into this. So she stated that their office and the tax collector's office will be really working hard to follow up on properties that even right now are getting behind. So that's something going forward is really going to be helpful to the city.
Thank you. Counselor Sullivan.
Yeah, I think one of the things we need to really start thinking about as we start looking towards our fiscal 18 budget is one question that remained unanswered last night was, what happens when this receivable that we have for $7 million, if 3.5 million of it is uncollectible? All right? What happens when that receivable disappears? And one of the things I think I might have heard last night was that this could be a hit to the stabilization fund. And if we're worried about $100,000 out of the stabilization fund, we better start thinking about what's going to happen when 3.5 million comes out of it.
I've yet to ever see a write-off like this would be on our balance sheet, right? I've yet to ever see the balance sheet for the city of Hoyoke. I'm sure there's probably somebody has formulated one somewhere on statement of assets. I don't know how accurate it is, but Councilor McGivern.
A lot of what we're talking about is not last year's taxes. A lot of it is stuff that is accrued over many years, and I agree with everything that's been said, but the overlay account is what's established for any monies that the city allocated because of expected revenues. We are forced to commit to account for them in the overlay account, which over the years is taking care of the balances of the differences. I'm not the expert on the overlay account, Mr. President, but I think it's something that maybe we could have the auditor in explain to us someday and get an idea of where the different year overlay accounts actually stand.
Yeah.
Sorry, Joe.
The assessors probably also could give us a primer on that again, too. They tend to oversee that as well. So the motion before us right now is that this Finance Committee report has been complied with. There's no other discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Mr. President, take 11B and D as a package.
Okay, motion on the floor is to suspend the rules to take 11B and 11D as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 11B is a Finance Committee report that was referred in order that the City Council approved the use of $112,000 from the Fund 0430, Sale of Real Estate, Chapter 44, to purchase 3 new police cars, Ford Interceptor utility vehicles. Have considered the same, recommend that that be approved. That comes to us from Councilors McGee, Tom, and Leahy Lopez. 11D reads that the Committee on Finance, to whom was referred in order that the sum of $112,000 is appropriated from the Fund 0430, Sale of Real Estate, Chapter 44, Section 63, for the purpose of purchasing 3 police cars. Have considered the same and recommend that that order be denied, Councilors McGee, Tom, and Leahy Lopez. These seem to say contradictory things.
Well, in light of the new information, the issue is you can't even act on it because the account has no money in it.
Well, then it should be
So it's a
denied.
motion to deny. That's
Should be
all it is.
denied.
Both of them have to be denied.
Both of them, yeah.
Yeah, so refer an order that the City Council to move one from that account.
And just to clarify, Mr. President,
Don't
one
these
order.
2 orders say the exact same thing, though?
Well,
With the
the
difference
issue-
of the commission?
Yeah, the issue is it was filed once as a late file, which then went to committee, one with the request that, was it filed properly?
Oh, I see.
Language-wise, as
We
well
have
as
2
discuss
items
it.
on the same thing.
And then they refiled it to see if
Got
that
it.
would be, so really, they're one and the same, but it is, you can't act on either because there's no money in the account.
Okay. So, if I understand it correctly, the chairman would like to change the committee recommendation from approve to deny on 11B.
Correct.
Okay, is that a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to change the committee recommendation from approve to deny. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So now, before the council reads that the recommendations are that both be denied, 11B and 11D. And that's now before us, so you'll take a motion to go to first reading, I assume.
Correct.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second to go to
Second.
first reading on both items together? Any discussion? I thought I saw a hand up over there. Councilor McGivern.
Real quick, Mr. President. Last year, many of us, I think all of us for the first time ever heard about the sale of real estate account and allowing to use these proceeds in a special account for limited items. We asked 1,000 questions, and I don't know if we got the answers, but we had enough answers to where we approved such an appropriation. I believe it was for police cruisers themselves. I understand now that, a mistake or mistaken interpretation was made. Things happened, but what I heard this evening is what the sad part is, the money that's in this account won't be free cash this year. It won't be free cash till next year, and this money is from last year.
I know.
And that's not fair. There's got to be a way to be able to appropriate that money in a more expedited way than to wait a year just because of the free cash.
Did they receive the money before June 30th or not till after June 30th?
I believe so, because we had one auction this year.
Right.
Most of the auctions were the year before, fiscal year before, I believe.
They're still collecting money too. They're expecting, from what they said, is they had about 130 now, depending on when they collected that. We can always get information. But the remainder of it, which would add up to 250, another 120, is supposed to be collected from now till about October 1st, give or take.
They should be able to count the stuff collected before June 30th.
Very least, yeah.
For towards this, yeah. Well, we always have to remember, right, the free cash, yeah, that's right, because free cash from last year will be the one coming up this, in another 6 to 8 weeks, so. Of course, as we all know, it's, usually we always had our free cash certified by now. It's very unusual that we're in October, and we never had that before. We always had that the latest would be September, end of August. we would get it. So now we're running October, November, December. We're getting free cash now. I don't know why it's taking so long.
Yeah, last night too, if I could.
Yeah,
He
Councilor
says
Leahy.
it's going to be the first week, he's guessing, of November, and when we were asking him to guess how much it's going to be, it was a lot lower than we're used to, close to like $2 million.
Yeah. I kind of understood originally when he was new, but then he went and used that, we're using the accounting firm to do it to help them, to help him. And so I don't understand why, if we have them in place, it's still taking so long, but be that as it may. Okay, so I think we've had our discussion. Motion on the floor is to, and I would cordially request that the council vote to yes on the first reading, just so we can get the second reading, because we really need to, I would like to have a roll call vote on this, and generally, we don't have a roll call vote on first reading, so a yes vote would be to deny, but just to be safe measure, I'd like to take 2 readings on it, just to make sure we properly deny it. All in favor of passing the first reading?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Pass the second reading.
Motion's been made, it's like to pass the second reading, okay? Now, the vote here, unless there's any other discussion, the vote is going to be a yes vote, but let's just remember that the committee recommendation is to deny. So a yes vote is actually denying both appropriations, because you're voting to adopt the committee recommendation, which is to deny. A no vote is actually to approve the funds, okay? So the clerk will call the roll. A yes vote is to adopt the committee report, which is to deny. A no vote is to not do that and approve the funds.
Greenie,
Yes.
Jordan,
Yes.
Leahy,
Yes.
LeBron Martinez,
Yes.
Lisi, Lopez,
Yes.
McGee,
Yes.
McGivern,
Yes.
Sullivan,
Yes.
Tallman.
Yes.
Bacon.
Yes.
Valentine.
Yes.
Bartley.
Yes.
Bresnahan. Unanimous vote.
By your vote, those appropriations have been denied. We now have 11C before the body. 11C reads as follows. The Committee on Finance, to whom was referred an order that $7,629.75 be paid out of free cash to pay school department custodial fees, utilities, charges to the Holyoke Elites basketball, or that such charges by the school department be waived. Have considered the same, recommend that the order has been complied with, and that an order be referred to the Mayor, Park and Rec School Department asking if CDBG money or other sources of revenue can be used on a waiver to assist the program. The committee has asked that an answer be given to the council within 10 business days, and that's signed off by Councilors McGee, Tallman, Leahy, and Lopez.
Receive, adopt, and send to the appropriate departments.
Second.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive, adopt, refer to the Mayor, Park and Rec, and School Department. Under discussion, Councilor McGee, or do you want to defer to Councilor Sullivan?
We can defer to him on the intent, and I'll explain why we couldn't.
Councilor Sullivan?
Well, the first thing, I think the wording might be wrong on this. I think it should read, sources of revenue be used or fees waived.
Yeah, it should be or fees waived.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some spell check issues in this sentence too here, but that revenue be used or fee waived, or fees waived.
And
Okay. Friendly amendment to that, and then just also a friendly amendment to spell revenue correctly. And the word "the" correctly and the word "assist" correctly. So, motion to add spell check.
I didn't type it.
No, to whomever did.
No, it's my
I'm not bringing out
handwriting. It's
names.
my
Just-
handwriting. They
yeah,
can't read my
It's probably typed just very quickly. So all those amendments, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. Counselor Sullivan, you have the floor, sir.
Okay, thank you. No, we had a good meeting last night. Some representatives from the Elite came. One of the parents came. We reviewed what has been going on with the program. It's been very, very successful. As we know, we had the girls in here to receive an award a few months ago. They went on after this to win. The girls' team won. Well, they came in fourth place in the National AAU tournament down in Orlando, Florida. the boys' team came in first place in the country. The idea here is to try and expand this AAU program, not only for the Holyoke elites, but so that we can include more youth in Holyoke in these programs. It doesn't limit, this particular motion is to waive the fees. We found out that that was a little difficult, so we need some help there. But in thinking it through, also to open the facilities without fees to any other groups that wish to form teams like this, where we can get more kids involved. Like, we went back and rehashed some of the history. Counselor Tallman might have an opinion that the Highland Patriots might have been a little bit better than the Churchill Packers. But the number of teams that we had in Holyoke at one time was, literally it was programs that could involve hundreds of kids, and we've kind of lost that now. And to do what we can through the school department, through Parks and Rec, through the mayor, to get some of that going again. And this AAU vehicle has been a fantastic opportunity for the kids.
Now, in terms of youth sports, which I will take a particular favor to Holyoke Youth Football, of which Kev Jourdain Jr. is on. And on the seventh and eighth grade team, I'm proud to announce, is in first place, 5-0. They have scored approximately 165 points in 5 games, have only given up 12 points in 5 games, and are representing Holyoke quite nicely as we are handing defeat after defeat to our rivals from Springfield to Westfield to Long Meadow to Wilbraham to East Long Meadow thus far. And West Springfield is to be our next victim this Sunday. And I welcome one and all to come to Roberts Field to witness Holyoke Youth Football. We have 3 teams, and they're just the most wonderful, talented, incredible kids. And the Pee Wee team also, which is the 3rd and 4th graders, is undefeated. And the juniors, which is the 5th and 6th graders, are struggling a little bit, but they're getting there. So,
Danny, how are your kids doing?
I'm proud to say Holyoke youth sports are actually not doing so bad.
Let's go back to the Leahy report.
Go back to the Leahy report.
Yes, I could talk all day on Holyoke youth football. Counselor McGee, you're next up.
He said it fine. It's nothing we can act on without a proper order from the mayor, signed off by the auditor. So this is the way we attacked it.
Great. Counselor McGivern.
I think we all support this for the right reasons. This is about the youth of Holyoke, and when you're charging fees for something that's already in place, if there's a custodian already there, we're still, the schools or the city's still paying the gas and electric because the buildings have to be heated, the water has to be running, and I think it's very important that we send the right message out that Councilor Sullivan, has said, and that's to take care of the youth sports. Historically, I just like to remind, Councilor Sullivan and everyone that it was the Avery Field Bombers that kind of dominated them all. Those teams were amateurs compared to the Ward 4 boys.
If you want to get into this, I went
What team do you play on?
went to Johnstown, Pennsylvania 2 years with the
Robert's
Highland
rules.
Owls. How's that?
Very good, very good. All right. What was when you were playing, the football must have been about this size, right? I mean, you didn't have laces on it in those days?
No, you're wrong again, Mr. President. It was baseball.
Oh, okay, very good. All right, so, motion on the floor is to adopt this and to send to the mayor, Park and Rec, and School Department. Any other discussion? All in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
So moved. Item 12A. From the Public Safety Committee, first up is item 12A, which states, "The Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred an order that the city engineer review West Franklin Street where appropriate for additional marked crosswalks, add appropriate signage for those as necessary, recommend that this order has been complied with." Bresnahan, Leahy, and Graney. Councilor Bresnahan.
Receive the committee and adopt the committee report, please.
Okay, motion's been made, seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion.
Sure. The city engineer came in and said this additional marking has already been put up on the crosswalk.
Just housekeeping.
It's just basically thank you. Just basically a housekeeping issue.
Okay. If not, always can be refiled, right?
Correct. Well, I hope Yem didn't lead us astray, but.
All right. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. 12, lost my assistant here, 12B. Is the Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred an order that the DPW or engineer come before the Public Safety to discuss the possibility of adding sidewalks along Bemis. Recommend that the order has been complied with. Councilors President Henley, He, and Graney.
Receive and adopt the committee report.
Okay, motion's been made, second, to receive and adopt the committee report. Any discussion?
Yeah, quickly, that city engineer says it's completely possible, so if the maker of the order, Councilor McGee, wants to get it done, he's got to find some money, but he said they can do it from Northampton all the way down to Bemis, they could put a sidewalk in.
Mr. President,
Councilor Graney?
I think the cost was $200,000.
Oh, is that all?
Yeah.
Okay.
Can you write a check?
Well, CDBG, oh, no, we just put it towards
Greater Park.
a fourth park. No, not even the park, just the study of the
Stabilization
park.
fund.
Just a study of the park.
Study a park. Councilor Tomlin wants sidewalks on Bemis.
No, I just want a quick question. Where would they, all along Bemis?
No, he wants
or
a park.
Would they have to take up part of people's property?
We
How
have,
about an escalator? That's a really steep street.
no,
I mean-
we have the right of way on every parcel of land, I mean, from Northampton Street on the going down on your left-hand side, that whole side going down, you could take 5 feet in on everyone's property and put a sidewalk all the way down.
From where, though? From East Hampton Road all the way down Northampton
Road
Street?
down Northampton Street.
Okay. I'm just saying a lot of people will be losing I know their city has property, they lose a lot of their frontage, right? Okay.
Well, the ward counselor put it in, so I'm hoping he.
I'm sure he's got, yeah.
He's got something covered. Yeah, because I
All right.
shovel it and keep.
All in favor that this be adopted?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 12C is a report from the Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred an order that no trespassing on Hoyok Water Works right-of-way and surrounding areas off of Appermont Highway be enforced. There is a high amount of erosion occurring due to high ATV travel in the area. Have considered the same. Recommend the order has been complied with. Councilors President Henley and Graney.
Many emails went back and forth with Dave Conti and the maker of the order, Councilor Vacon, and both the counselor and the maker of the order, as well as David Conti, the superintendent of the water works, feel that this issue is being addressed as best as possible. And if there's some other issues that come up down the road, he's happy to come before us and speak on the matter again.
Councilor Bacon.
To the maker of the order, please.
And I just want to add one comment that didn't come up at the meeting, because some of the concerns of the neighbors was that the erosion was going to cause damage to piping in that area under the ground, but I was assured that there are no pipes running under there, so it's not a safety concern in that regard. Thank you.
All in favor that this committee report be adopted?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item 12D, report on Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred an order that the city look into adding a no loitering sign on Main Street near the car wash. Recommend that this order has been complied with. Councilors President Henley and Graney.
This order is going to have to go back because the signage has been put up on the building.
Okay.
Has been put on the.
Council President has made a motion to refer it back to committee. Is there a second? All in favor? Opposed?
Thank you.
So moved. 12E, please. Thank you, sir. Committee on Public Safety, to whom is referred an order that the City of Hoyoke Fire Department serve as the backup basic life support ambulance for the City of Hoyoke. Recommend that this order be given leave to withdraw.
Second.
Councilors President Henley and Graney.
Receive and adopt the committee report.
Motion's been made and seconded to receive and adopt the committee report. Under discussion, Councilor President.
Very briefly, there was three orders that talked about the Hoyoke Fire Department. The third order was emergency, the dispatching, which is, basically when you call 911, it goes to the police station then sends it to AMR. AMR then decides whether or not we send out one of our Hoyoke fire trucks that the city of Hoyoke taxpayers are paying for. I decided, not to give that leave to withdraw, because emergency medical dispatch is the first footing that the Holyoke Fire Department to get their foot in the door, then we can talk about this ambulance service. The fact that AMR is dictating where Holyoke City fire trucks and tactical units go is wrong. It needs to be addressed immediately, but out of respect to the maker of the order, as well as the fire chief, he asked that both of these given leave to withdraw. I will say that the ambulance service support has been talked about for the past 15 years, and it's just a matter of someone having to pull the trigger. But the emergency medical dispatch, there are many communities in the state of Massachusetts that are funding the 10 to 11 to 15 firefighters just on the money they make from the 911 calls that they retrieve. So all the money that the fire department is losing because AMR is getting, that's got to change, although there is an RFP out there now, so I don't know who's going to get the contract, but we got to look at that a little better than we are. Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the committee report? Aye. Opposed? So moved. There were no public service, DGNR, charter and rules, or joint city council school committee
Where is the charter
reports.
rules?
Could I just say we are going to have a public service committee? It's going to be held on the 24th.
Okay, public service will be on October 24th. What time, Counselor?
6.
6? Okay.
And public safety's trying for the 27th. We do have a quorum, so I know, the
27th,
the
at what time?
27th at 6. I know that order that, that you've been talking about, that'll be on the agenda, so I just want to verify with you that you can make it in the marijuana.
Oh, okay, yeah, I think that's fine.
So, okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's just kind of in pencil, so
Okay.
talk to the boss at home and let me know.
Yes. So, this now moves us over to the motions, orders, and resolution section of the meeting, of which there aren't too many tonight, refreshingly. Councilor Vacan gives us our first item to discuss. She has presented an order which states, item number 17, that the solar-powered lights be added to stop signs at Southampton Road and County Road intersection, that the two in Southampton have these lights and are much more visible to drivers, and paint stop lines at each stop sign. Okay, motion's been made and seconded to receive, refer to public safety. All in favor? Opposed? So moved. Item number 18 is an order introduced by Councilor Graney, order that the City Council discuss and receive a comprehensive legal opinion clarification on political activities or political organizations lobbying for their cause at the Holyoke Senior Center or any other public building supported by the taxpayers of Holyoke. The rationale is a lobbyist of an organization in favor of the passage of the Community Preservation Act was actively soliciting citizens at the Senior Center on Thursday morning, September 29, 2016.
And Friday, September 30th.
And Friday, September 30th. Councilor Graney, what would you like us to do? You want to send this to committee or to something to have a follow-up or?
Yeah, just to get a legal opinion on it.
Okay. Maybe
I'm not-
refer it to ordinance with a copy to the law department for a legal opinion?
Yeah, because I've had several different, that they have to provide quality time for this group and that group.
What are all the rules on all that?
Postings, the whole bit, but the election is coming real quick, so I think we should move on it.
Okay, so the councilor's asking that the item go to the ordinance committee with a copy now to the law department to begin drafting a legal opinion for our consideration so we can review the do's and don'ts and the rules on all of these and,
Within 30 days?
It has to be sooner.
You think 30 days is, okay, within 30 days. Councilor Lisi, I saw your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we are comprehensive. Thanks. That we're comprehensive in the way that we view this order, that, that political activity would count as our own activity. I know that the Golden Agers, for example, have had the candidates for the city council and for school committee and other positions in, and so I would love to understand if there are any differences between that type of activity and tabling amongst other citizens groups or political groups.
Yeah, could you address that too in your considerations? Yeah, Councilor Leahy?
Yeah, I agree with everything that's said, but not that I'm an attorney, but isn't the First Amendment involved with that somehow?
Well, to the extent First Amendment has limits to it, right? That doesn't mean I can put a billboard on a public building, no more than maybe can I camp out in a public building all day and night with a sign that says vote for Kevin? I don't know. Maybe I can, maybe I can't.
Mr.
But
President.
we're about to find out, right? That's what this is. This is going to be an educational exercise, and the law department is going to illuminate us as to the do's and don'ts.
Mr. President.
That's it. On
Mr.
top of every
President.
stop sign. Yes, Counselor Granny.
Briefly, in the Hoyoke Public Schools, when I was on the school committee or as an employee of the Hoyoke Public Schools, badges, literature, or any information regarding political activity was not allowed.
Yep.
So I just want to find out if it is allowed or it's not allowed. And if it's allowed in one place, is it allowed in another? I don't know.
I will tell you one thing that did come up as a city councilors that you might just be interested in. About 15 years ago, we saw a legal opinion regarding can city councilors wear political buttons during the city council meetings? Answer, yes. That came back as a yes, we can do
That
that.
was because of me.
Was it because of you?
I was
Yeah.
wearing
Leahy
it,
report.
and Patty Devine filed that.
Yeah. Yeah. and
Another
we-
counselor complained.
And I have a copy of that, so that was kind of interesting. Counselor McGivern.
We may not want to know the answers, but I also had some questions recently because there's been some renting of city parks for family get-togethers, but fundraisers. One candidate for the state senate race this year. And, you know, I was told that as long as it was rented, it was okay. And I think when the forums at the senior center are sponsored by a group, they're using the auditorium. When we as candidates go to a lunch, you know, it's a specific time, you know, that's sponsored by the seniors themselves. But I think when people are just going in and out in the day-to-day operations of the senior center, that may be the issue.
Or they set up a table.
Or they set, yeah.
And you're camped
On a
out.
daily basis, yeah.
Yeah, the question is
You know, if
what's the extremes of all these things?
The
What-
set
what-
aside
what can
time
you-
and
can you not do?
the powers to be agreed and everybody, you know, shows up together, that's different.
We're discussing it tonight.
Are we discussing?
Oh, good. So the law department will help us with that. Counselor Bacon.
And I just wanted to note that Brenna, our city clerk, did inform us about that. That is on the books, that if a public building is used to lobby for something or against something, there has to be equal time provided. That we already know. So if there is a public building that was used in favor or against one thing, equal time and opportunity has to be afforded to the opposing view. The problem that occurs sometimes is either because people don't know or they're just excited about whatever they're working on, they don't step back and make sure that it's made known to the public that people can come in on both sides. So I think because we're not going to have time before the election maybe to get through every formal legal opinion about every matter, I think just in the interest of fairness, if there have been 7 days of one thing, then there should be 7 days allowed if there's people that want to come in on the other thing, because that is the law. And our clerk has made us aware of that. And I think that, you know, we as the council and our administration has to enforce the law.
Well, I think the other thing we need to consider, right, is do we need an ordinance that speaks to some sort of content-neutral way to set up rules on the public property for doing all these things? Because what if you get the situation where it's easy when you have a ballot question, right? There's a yes and there's a no. So you have two tables.
Right.
Now the question is, what about candidates for office, right? So now we've got 8 or 10 tables that everybody wants. And so the question is, how practical is all that? But we'll find out. Counselor Lisi.
But I think that what's overlooked in this opinion about giving equal time to both sides or all candidates involved is that both sides or all candidates involved actually have to be there. I mean, so like we could say, you know, the senior center could say we're open to having anyone there, but there's only one person taking advantage of the opportunity. There's no one coming forward from the other side of the debate, or the other candidates are not making use of the same opportunity that's there. So is that the fault or something that has to be enforced by our, you know, senior center or public building, or is that really just, you know, on the proponents or opponents to figure out how and when they want to use their time?
Well, the point there, I think, would be, and you make a great point, but I think the issue is the duty now. If we're going to open up these public squares to this type of thing and to ensure, one, how are we going to police equal access? Are we going to then put an affirmative duty on the department heads of these buildings to say, you have an obligation now to send a letter to all the candidates that says, you know, we're opening up this building and every Monday through Thursday from 2 to 6. We're going to now allow you to set up a table in here, and, you know, what becomes the
obligation,
responsibilities of
sure.
all these people to make sure everyone knows that there's equal access. So, I don't know, we're going to have to give it some thought, so it's fair to everybody, right? Okay. Anybody else? Any other thoughts? Okay, great. So
On the
motion on the
motion.
floor is to receive this, refer it to ordinance committee with a copy to the law department to begin, working on an advisory for us. And if, Madam Clerk, could you just pass around that OCPF thing to us, maybe email or something? Okay, thanks a lot. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved.
Items 19 through 21 as a package?
Okay, motion's been made and seconded to take items 19, 20, and 21 as a package. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Item number 19 comes to us from Councilor LeBron Martinez, that a handicap space be made available for Miguel Garcias of the Salvation Army at 271 Appleton Street. Recommendation on that is sent to ordinance with copy to Disabilities
Disability,
Commission.
please, yep.
Okay. Item number 20 is also from Councilor LeBron Martinez, that the school zone signs be placed around Neary School located on North Summer Street in Mosier to alert the motorist, so they will slow down. DPW,
Yep.
right? Adopt and send to DPW on 20. And then 21 is going to be, is also from Councilor LeBron Martinez, that a stop sign be placed on the corner of North Summer and Mosier. I believe you're going to need ordinance for that. If there's not an ordinance on that already.
Ordinance and
Okay.
DPW, right, after?
Yep, ordinance with a copy of the city engineer. Okay. Now before us is all those recommendations. Councilor LeBron Martinez, anything on those, or it's pretty straightforward?
Yep.
Okay. Anybody else? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We're into the couple late files left, folks. We have late file B. It's a solar facility application from Robert and Louis Baker, hailing from Rock Hill, South Carolina. Attorney Toby Wilson representing. SHR Energy Management out of Weston, Connecticut. We've seen, this is a company I recall we've seen before, SHR. 24 Hill Farm Road, Weston, Connecticut. He is looking to place a solar special permit in a residential zone to be located off of Whitney Avenue. And that is now before us, and I believe would be to send that over to ordinance? Ordinance. Okay, so a motion on the floor is to send this to ordinance. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor? Opposed? So moved. Late file E. Introduced by Councilor Sullivan, that the Park and Rec Commission report to the City Council regarding the status of employee on paid administrative leave, as well as provide reason for excessive delays in providing minutes of meetings, executive session if needed. We can do this one of two ways. We could, one, add this to the special meeting of the City Council. That's one way to consider. I could add it as an item to be brought up there. B, send this to Public Service Committee, and then they could have. Okay, that's, Councilor Bartley has a pretty strong opinion on this.
Well, I think it should be in front of the whole committee, and I think more people are more apt to come to the special meeting.
Okay.
But also, is it the commission, the Parks and Rec Commission who needs to come before us to talk about this?
Yes, yeah, it would be to invite them to come in and,
Are
in
they
executive
in charge of
session
You
to
know-
discuss what's going on.
Can I do the public service? We'd go into the executive session?
Sure.
They don't hire the employees.
It'd have to be a joint
The
meeting.
commission. The commission doesn't hire the employees.
Oh, they can't just be invited to come and speak at the Public Service Committee?
You always mention about the, quorum and all that.
Oh, I see.
30B. You going to say that, Joe?
Okay.
All right.
A joint meeting then, interesting, okay. All right. Let's
Maybe just
think,
have the chairperson come in front of the public service?
yeah, maybe that way to avoid the quorum issue, right? Is that a possibility? Okay. So let's think about that in the way we word this. Counselor McGivern?
Although I disagree with the ruling, we've been told in the past that if a committee holds a meeting and they vote to go in executive session and non-committee members make up a majority of the full city council,
Yeah.
we're not supposed to be there. So if we send this to committee, I just want to make sure that
Yeah.
people aren't going to be excluded.
I think it has to go to a special meeting.
Okay. So why don't we consider this, counselors? Have it at the special meeting, but we only invite the chair of the committee, of the Commission of Park and Rec. Does that sound okay? Because otherwise, the law department's suggesting that if we have all three there, or a quorum, we actually have to have as a joint meeting with Park and Rec, and I don't think we want to go there with that, right? So, and I would say we would also want the law department to be there and to give us what they can give us
The
on
personnel
this.
director too, probably.
And personnel director, yep.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Good, okay. So let's consider amending this order to say the chairman of Park and Rec Commission,
The Parks and Rec director.
the Parks and Rec Director, exactly, Park and Rec Director, the Personnel Director, and the Law Department appear before the city council, and I will add this to a special meeting agenda, regarding the status of this employee, yada, yada, and also to discuss these minutes that have been missing. Okay?
Mr. President, just a point
Yes.
of information. In that structure, the commission doesn't hire the employees in that department, do they?
Yes, they confirm.
Yes, I believe they do.
They do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're appointees of the commission,
Oh, okay.
all of them. Yep.
Oh.
The director is, and the director would respond
Oh,
to the
okay.
commission.
Thank you.
Okay.
I didn't know that.
I got to believe that the chair of the Park and Rec Commission is eminently involved in any issue that would be going on. I mean, what's there, about maybe 3 employees or 4 employees there? It's not many. Okay, so the amendment on the floor is to say that, to change Park and Rec Commission report to the city council, say that, we're going to say the chair of the Park and Rec Commission, the Park and Rec Director, the Personnel Director, and the Law Department report to the city council at a city council meeting regarding the status of employee on paid administrative leave, and as well as provide a reason for excessive delays in providing minutes of meetings, period, executive session if needed, and I'll consult the law department before we do that and put that together. So, all in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. All in favor of adopting the order, since we are taking final action, this is a late file
Suspend the
item.
rules to take final
Motion is to
action.
suspend the rules to take up final action on this item now as amended. All in favor of that?
Aye.
Opposed, so moved. That's been adopted. Motion on the floor, if I understand, Counselor Sullivan, is to adopt as amended. Is that your motion?
Yes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. So we will put that together. Can you get me a copy of this as amended, so I can put that agenda together? Okay, that is the end of our official agenda. Motion to adjourn would be in order.
So move. Second.
Motion has been made and second to adjourn. All in favor of adjourning?
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. We stand adjourned.
Okay, Jimmy, you take care.
Yes, sir. You have a good day.
Yeah.
Good night, I should say.
Yeah, it's gonna be a long night anyway, so.